right, hey guys, Sam here with you on August 21st. We're kind of late morning. So it's a Tuesday, so we typically will look at traditional assets on Tuesday. We call them traditional Tuesdays. With crypto just kind of sideways to lower, seems like another opportunity to just offer some examples here of other markets that we are trying to encourage you to look at. So we're going to look at a couple of things here. We'll look at the dollar yen, and then we're going to look at gold. Often there's a relationship between the two, although that seems to be, that might be losing the consistency here of that relationship here as we go through these charts. So now I've got up here, this is dollar yen. This is an 8-hour chart here, and I'm working from the 2016 lows. And again, we'll get to the hard right edge, but just it's always a good idea to try and get some idea of where you are in the larger degrees. So here on this 8-hour, we can get a fairly good read on it. Now this is a fairly difficult count to get. This is not easy Elliott Wave analysis in here. So we get this giant range in here where we get clearly we get some resistance, and then down here we get this area of support, and we just get stuck in here. Ultimately we get down. Now we're back in the middle of it. It's very tricky trading here. So it just requires you to go through process of elimination and deductive reasoning and identifying your 3s and 5s, get a count on this that works and supports the guidelines and rule set of Elliott Wave. So I've got us coming here off of this low down here. I have I believe this wick here is just an extreme. We've got a truncation here. So I'm counting this as 1, 2. Then we're going 3, 4, and 5. So we're completing in the very large degree here a 1 wave. Well, coming off of that, we get this very complex correction. So it appears to me that we've got a WXY. So we get an ABC into a W, ABC into our X wave. Then we go yet again A, B. Now here we get a little bit more clarity as we get a clean 5 coming down. So we know that's likely finishing something, and you can see here the 1, 2, 3. Here's the 4. We don't overlap the 1, so we get an impulse to take us down into what I'm proposing is the C wave here of this ABC to complete the Y wave and then give us a completion of the second wave relative to this 1 wave. Now one thing, so you look at that and you go, well, why does it stop there? Well, it's not a perfect pull. Let's see. Well, here's where it's a little tricky. So an algo doesn't care about a truncated fifth. It's just going to use the absolute low, right? So we're going to pull from there to our absolute high, and you'll kind of go, a little sloppy here on the 65. So we know that an algo that would have started buying here, that would have stayed long with these targets up here, has exited the market here. So this would imply weakness. Now, I'll show you what they will have done, so we'll come back to that in a second. But let me just make this point. So we look here and we go, all right, well, if that's a wave 2, as we're reading it here, if we can agree that I've got some sort of an impulsive structure here coming off of this low down here, that's a reasonable candidate for a 1 wave. Now, we get the WXY completes a 2 wave. Well, we know a 2 wave can be anywhere from the 50 to the 786, can go lower, but here's the sweet spot between the 50 and the 618. Now we've gone through it, so you look at that and you go, well, why does it stop there? Well, we can look left and say, hey, do I have any structural resistance offering support? Well, it took me a minute, but here it is. It's almost always going to be an algo play. So if I go from this absolute high here to what I have labeled as the A wave low here, so from swing high in this movement here, this is my lowest low. So just as an algo would do it, they'll go swing high to swing low. Now I'm going to pull this one off so you can see this. So if I get this right on it, there we go. Okay, so we go swing high, swing low into the golden zone, and then we come right down here and we get it to near to the tick. So we get from the 65 right to the negative 23.6. So I have a high degree of confidence because look at the reaction, right? That's always the tell. What's the reaction at the target? So from golden zone to target damn near to the tick, which is pretty remarkable considering we're looking at an 8-hour chart. So there's the algo play. So that gives me a high degree of confidence in this pivot, at the very least that it's significant, right? And so we've had a pretty substantial move off of it. So if we allow for that, then we say, okay, well that's a reasonable candidate here for a 1-2 here in white. So we get a 1-2. All right, so we know, yes, we broke the 65, but we are still certainly within the range for a wave 2 being between the 618 and the 786. So that's a candidate, and we have a technical pivot. Now, coming off of this low, here's where it gets really quite difficult to get a hard read on this. So I thought there'd be a few things here that we could look at and learn from. So some sort of a significant pivot here. I'm counting it as a 1-2. Well, let's break into it coming off of that low and see what we can find here as we break it down. So here's that 5-wave structure that brings us down to this C. What I'm proposing is the completion. This is the 5 waves that completes the C, that completes the Y. All right, now here it gets a little tricky, right? So coming off of this, well, I've got a pretty good candidate here for a 1-2. This is the first retracement of any depth, and it's technical. So if I just grab this low up to my, come on there. So we come right where, as I just said, we know the sweet spot for a wave 2 between the 50 and the 618. That's right where we find it. So we immediately right off the bat, we get an algo pull. All right, so we know, well, no surprise algos are in here, right? So they get first target, third, fourth. I mean, it's just rolling and blowing and going here. So we get a solid candidate here for a 1-2. All right, well, if that's a 1-2, then we need an impulsive wave structure to give us our third. All right, so coming off of that low, it looks like I get a 1, 2, 3, 4. Did we overlap? Doesn't look like we do. Then I get a 5. So I've got a good candidate here for a 1-2. Do we overlap? I don't think we do. Let's just dig in there. Let's just double check that. That's 1. Yeah, we would have overlapped. Okay, so we get a 1-2, and we get a leading diagonal here. So you can see the 1, 2, 3, 4 ABC finishes. So we've got the 3-wave structure. So we have a leading diagonal into a 1-wave. Pretty much of a straight rip down, although if I were down on smaller time frame, we can see an A, a B. Here's the B wave, and then we come down for the C. So let me pull back out on that. So it looks like I'm going to go down. Let's just go down a little bit more, down to a 2-hour. Okay, so 1-2. Then I get a 1, 2, 3, 4. Could be 4s here. It's hard to say. Actually, could even be here. So we could have this. We could have an A, B, C into a B, and then down for the 4. Yeah, it's hard to call that here. So we could have just a little triangle shaping up in here. So we have something like this. We get this for our 4. So it looks like we've got a 4 in here. All right, and then looks like we finish 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So I'm fairly solid about the impulsive structure to give me my 3. Well, down we come for the 4. Looks like I get an A, B, C down in my 4. So we want to check that, of course. So pulling from our 2 low to our 3 high. All right, so we get, that's a little deeper than you might anticipate, but look how far down the wave 1 is, because we had this nice, fairly substantial wave 3. So we come down here for a 4. We get through the 50, but 618 holds it. Again, we're not threatening the wave 1. I should just, out of force of habit, wake that off. We're not threatening the wave 1 at all, and then look what happens here. So we know this is just algo's delight. They're just killing it in here, right? So this is on a 2-hour chart. So there, it looks like there's another one here as well. So the algo's all over this. They're getting paid left and right. So it looks like we've got another one here coming off of this low for potential 1 wave here. So you can see there it is again. So they actually get second target on this. So let's see if you can see that. So you've got that off here. So we come here from the 4, so we get this clean 5-wave structure, gives us our 1 wave here in yellow, 1 wave into that. So I get 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We know, again, as I just showed you here and here, we're looking for that 2 wave between the 50 and the 618. Right into the sweet spot we go. Happens to be the point of control in here. So I've wicked this off as that's a candidate for a wave 2. Well, here's where it gets tricky. Let's go down. Let's go to a 1 hour. I think I can show this to you here. All right, so if we got to pick it apart. All right, so from this candidate here for a wave 4, right? We like that. It's technical. I get a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So I'm fairly solid that I've got a good 1 wave here because I've got a motive wave. It happens to be an impulse. We don't overlap the wave 1. So from this 4, I've got a clean 1 wave. So then I get a very clear ABC, and we know that's technical. So I've wicked this off. I'm going to show you why. So as I just showed you from this 4 through my 5, right? So here's sweet spot for the wave 2 between the 50 and the 618. Up we go. We get second target there. So I've got a reasonable candidate here for a third relative to this 1, 2. Well, here's the problem. So you can look at this, and it would be very tempting to want to go 1, 2, and then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, but it doesn't work. Because if this was 2 and we were correcting that, we've overlapped it. We can't overlap the 2. So through process of elimination, we have to look at this and say, well, potentially I've got a diagonal. So if this is my 1 and I go ABC, then this is a candidate here for an ABC into my 3, because with a diagonal, we're looking for 3-wave structure, not 5. So it's a bit trickier. So because you want to go 1, 2, 3, 4. So this could be a failed 5th, possibly. But if we put it into the larger degree, it doesn't fit as well. So let's just think about what might be happening here. So let's wick off the wave 1. All right, so we've got wave 1 and the low of wave 2 wicked off here. So if I've got this right, if this is, we're in the process of a diagonal, so this is 3, 4, so we could have an ending diagonal in the 5th. Right, so this would be a candidate for the 5th. Well, the symmetry it's not great, it's not ideal, but it is technical. So if we look here for the 1, 2, 3, now let's consider where we've gone here. So we know in a diagonal we'd want to look for a relationship between the start of the 1 through the pivot of the 3rd. So if I've got this right, well, we've had a little push through the 65. You know, in a diagonal, yeah, that's not ideal. I'd like to have seen it. So you see here, looks like the algo's kicked in here and tried to push it up, and we just wasn't strong enough. So it rolls over. So if we look at that and we think, oh, break of the 65, well, what does that mean? Well, that means algos are going to flip. Now, when I say that, that doesn't mean that that this is a stop and reverse, as I like to think I've made this clear through multiple videos. What that means is that they're going to sell the next 50. Right, so if we come up from here and we get to the 50, they're going to sell it with that as their target. Get that off here. You see what that means? So, and we got to consider the alternates here. So they could do it here, right? That's another possibility. We've got to consider they could do it here for this target. Well, this gets problematic because if it were to come down here, that's why I wicked off this wave 2 low. We cannot violate the wave 2. So this cannot read as a 1, 2, 3, 4 in a diagonal if we break through the wave 2 low. It invalidates the count. So it's a bit problematic. All right, so because of the clearness of the count that we have coming off of the low here, this 1, 2, 3, 4, we can't finish. We can't finish in a 3. Do you see? I can't do this. That's doesn't fit. All right, so I can't go 1, 4, and then I can't go ABC. All right, so something is off somewhere if this wave 2 is going to break. Now, right now, it looks like this could play. This could play. We're going to need so we've got a pretty good move here today to get off of this, to get off of that low. Now we're going to need to move pretty quickly. So if we break into the other side here. So if we go from our pivot here to what I'm proposing is the A wave here. Well, this is interesting. So you note here, so we come just shy of the 618, likely a front run, and they've got target already. So it's a bit problematic in here. Right? It's difficult trading. So of course, when in doubt, first thought is just stay out or wait and get more information. But if you were, I mean, this is a there's a tremendous amount of volume, incredibly liquid market to trade. So there's multiple opportunities here on different time frames to try and find a trade here. So right now, I still think the bias would have to be to the long side, looking for a candidate for this 5th to be, well, at least be pushing up to the old highs. So again, if we look here, despite the break, if we left that algo target up here, that would put us up here. This would complete the 5. A little problematic, right? So if this is going to play as ABC, then this pivot needs to hold. So it creates the possibility for a setup here for a 1, 2. Because if this is going to go, we have the potential for a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 to take us out of there. Now, obviously that degree is way too high. So let's get that down a little bit so it might make sense. So if this is going to go here, so this pivot, in my view, this pivot needs to hold. All right, so we saw we had the technical, we hit the algo target down here as I just showed you. So we have this down here to deal with. All right, so from this to this low here. So we got this little hot box here where we had this confluence. Now we had a little spike through it, right? So we know we're going to have to deal with an algo that's going to sell all the way halfway back. So that doesn't mean, so that could be the wave 3 pivot. Just, you don't know, right? So it's just resistance we're going to have to deal with on the way back up. But it creates the possibility for the trade here on the assumption that we are not finished, that we have not finished because we don't have a completed 5. If that's going to play, then we have a candidate here for a 1-2 that could push us into. So this actually would set us up more for a double top. If this were going to be the one wave, and we don't know where that pivot starts, could be something like this. We could be going higher, right? So at least we'd be taking out this 5th. Just because we have a target doesn't mean we get there. In addition, we have sort of a broken wing here in that we've broken the 65. So you got to ask yourself, well, is an algo likely to be taking that? Well, my guess is not, because that means that they're going to flip, because here's the dominant pivot they'd be working with. So we're kind of in a conundrum between, we have an Elliott count that is getting pushed here in its symmetry. We're getting a push. So here's the other thing. Look at the length of time of the 2 relative to the 4, right? So we lose symmetry here. It's not that I've never seen it before, but that's not how you would want it scripted, ideally. Right? So a little problematic here in the lack of symmetry here between the 2 and the 4. It doesn't have to be perfect or identical, but it's certainly something to consider. It's just a difficult trade, but it does create the opportunity here by the implication that we're not yet finished because of the failure of this structure to complete. So everything's fine through the 3-4, but this is a little problematic. Unless you'd have to really see, even if you went 1-2 and you're trying to finish up here and you're trying to get it to complete this way, you can't get the subdivision to work. You can't go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It just the symmetry would be all off, right? You see, so it would be suggesting that we went 1, 2, that you did this, that you had 3. Where's my 4 here? 4 and 5, right? That does not look as likely to me. So look at the difference between the 2 and the 4 up here. This just looks like it's part of this, or actually this. So we'd have 1. So you'd have to. It just doesn't work. There's just no way to get that to work. So this would be 1, 2, and then you'd have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It just looks like. See, that plays much better as 1, 2, 1, 2, 3. Right, but we have a breakdown here. So I think the odds are much less likely that that's what we have, and that the 4 is potentially going in here, the 5 still yet to come, and the 3 is in here in the midst of a diagonal, thus giving us that 3-wave structure. So we do get a 1 wave here, and then we go into a diagonal. Now we don't confirm it's a diagonal until we break the wave 1 here. Now we're looking for 3-wave structure. So we look back here and we go, okay, that must be an ABC. Then we come down ABC. Right, so this is a candidate here for our 4. So ABC into the potential, the proposed 4 low, which implies one more push up here, and we're going to look for it. Well, we certainly could have a diagonal to finish, and we might well finish in an ABC. Right, so we could have something along these lines. Let's get that up a degree. Let's go to blue, and we'll go to micro. All right, so we certainly could have an ABC to stay with that diagonal structure. Right, so that could potentially finish us. So we look now and we go, okay, where would that put us? Well, a couple of things to do. One, we'd look for a relationship between the length of the 3rd where the 4 kicks in, so we'd be pushing for second target up here. I think that's less relevant because the algo target has already been hit and we had the reaction. The other thought is we could go up to the all the way. Right, so we put it back here. All right, so we've come to the 38 here. You know, it's not an easy count. It just looks to me like it's unfinished. So I would be looking here for the first reasonable pullback here. So if I go all the way down, even to the 15-minute, let's go to the 15-minute. Look at that. All right, so that's a fairly good push off of that low. So we've got a candidate here. It may not even be finished yet. It looks like we might have 1, 2, 3, 4. Still in the process. So it's some way there's a 1 attempting to go in there, and the trade will be at the 2 for the 3, 4, 5, right? Or the AB if it ends up taking a diagonal structure. So off of this low, if and when we get a pivot up here, here's the next opportunity. And we can be clear about where we'd be out. So you'd be looking to take the trade. So if you got something along these lines, A, B, C down here, you're looking for the 3. Let's get that off of there. So it'd be something like that, 3, 4, 5, or A, B, C. It's too soon to call it. All right. So there potentially now would be is a 1 wave. So we might finish. We might have a diagonal that would take us up here. Right. It's way too early. Just all I know is that if we push off of this low and we get a decent move here, and we can get a subdivision here that supports this as some sort of a motive wave, well, then the first retracement is where the trade is. Looking for the between the 50 and the 618. So we'd look for that sweet spot. Right, this is right where we look for it, right here, trying to get that push from the 2 into the 3, or if it's a diagonal, if this is A, B, we're looking for the C to complete it. All right, so that's what I see there. A very tricky county, so it would be worthwhile to go through it and see if you come up with the same conclusion that I do. This was also tricky coming off of this B. This was fairly clear. So we had a clean 5 coming down. Then we had our ABC into the B. That looks solid. I showed you that was technical. That's what gave us the pivot down here as we hit the algo target. And then coming down into that, also tricky. Looks like we go 1, 2, ABC into a 3. Here's the 4 overlapping the 1. Whether the 1, because I looked at this also, is possibly 1, 2. I don't think that plays as well. So I get, since I've got a diagonal, I think I've got A, B, C. Here's my 2, and then I go A, B, C into my A, B, C into my B, and then this, some sort of a diagonal, finishes into the C and giving us the 3. So here, very deep, but again, we know we're looking for a relationship between the start of the 1 wave and the and the pivot of the 3. What do? We come right to golden zone. Right now, this, interestingly, this golden zone doesn't get target. Now, possibly that's a front run. That may be a front run. Hard to say. All right, and it may just be that it's off of this, right? So if I redraw this, all right. So here was the 618. So you look at this. So do you see what happens here? So we get from this 618. Eventually, they get the target. This may be a front run, but they've got a second. They got a second pull here, right? Second one right there. Actually, that one would be right here. Do I have that right? Hang on. Yes. Okay. Right. So we can see the first one is from this pull here. So this is the first one here. This is the green line for the first one, which they've just realized. Now we've got this second one here, the lower one here. So we're kind of in between. Right, and then we're pushing the wave 2 here. I wick this off. That's the wave 2 low because this invalidates. So the idea here is we have a clear invalidation point. And we know algos have been pushing the short side. So if they're going to flip now, all right, so let's redraw. So with all of that marked, so we've got some pivots here to consider what the algo is going to do next. So this is clear. This likely that's a reasonable candidate right there for your wave 1 because an algo will be here, right, to try and catch that for this. This was a significant pivot here. Swing high to swing low. This will be some resistance, and we're right at the point of control, right? Most volume trading. So a lot of buy sells, plenty of market activity here. That's a reasonable place to be looking for a 1 wave, right? So then we pull it down here. Here's our candidate for a 2. There's the next trade. First retrace off of this that's significant. Could be it's already started. We don't know yet. So not enough information here, but at some point we're going to get a solid 1 wave in here, be my guess. Then we'll look for that 2. Here's the trade, right? Here's your exit. All right, so we know we're out here because this is the low that we're assuming that is in. Right, as it allows for this count to play. So this is your exit, next entry between the 50 and the 618, looking for the push up into the 3. Could be the 3 of the 1 wave of the 5th. Could be we're just starting to finish up the whole thing. It's hard to say, right? Because there's plenty of upside. So this just could be the A wave going in before we go B, C to finish up here, finish the diagonal, finish the 5-wave structure. If we finish that, then we've got a 5-wave structure coming off of a dominant low. What do we have? Just a 1 wave. just a one wave off the low. We wait for this thing to pivot, and then we draw from swing low to swing high, and we look for the next 50. Right, same thing every time, every asset, doesn't matter. Always the approach is always the same. They all trade the same. I know many of you come here, you're looking for analysis of crypto. Crypto sucks right now. It just sucks. It's just not a good place to be. So why be stubbornly persistent about staying in crypto? Listen, if you've got some Bitcoin, you can open up an FX account with your Bitcoin, you move it over, you're trading within 10 minutes. I mean, it's really easy to make that switch. So if you're open to that, I want to encourage you to take the same skill set here and apply it to FX, right? I promise you it's easier to trade in FX than it is in crypto, right? So the execution is much less problematic, right? And you don't need to sweat whether your stop's going to get filled or any of the challenges that you're dealing with in crypto, right? You're not borrowing anybody's dollar or yen to trade. You're just posting some margin. You can trade incrementally, so you can keep the size small, particularly if FX is new to you. Trade in the micros or the minis. Just get used to it. Build your confidence in this methodology. You'll certainly see it. It's loaded with algos, right? So again, as I will often tell you, God knows how many algos are in the market. This is just the one that leaves footprints that we can track. Right, that's all we are. We're algo trackers. Where is it? Where are the footprints? What did it do last? Can we get behind it? What's the competing algorithm going to do? Right, that's the game we're playing. What did they do? Can we get an Elliott count to fit in with what they did last? And if we can get behind an Elliott count where we know an algo has just participated, then we get the best of both. Right, that's the idea. All right, guys, with that, I'll wrap it. I'm going to come back and we'll do one more today. I'm going to do gold as well. It's kind of interesting. Okay, guys, that's it for now.